Hello and welcome back to this series of videos. In this video, I will be looking at the SCP command. And the SCP is a close relative to the SSH. So close that in some cases, the SCP will use the default configuration of your SSH command. So let's look at that. So first thing, we always start with the man pages, SCP. So you can see there is a sign off. This is quite interesting. You have it takes a series of options, also a few directives and paths to the file system. For example, if you want to connect to SFTP, which is secure FTP server. Also, it looks at your SSH config and your identity files. If you have external identity files that are not in your default location, you can point your system to those. But by default, if you already configure SSH on your machine with all the keygen done properly in the correct folders, or not the correct, but the default folders, because you can change the location if you need that, if you need to do that. Your default location, then SCP will read the same files and use those files as a part of its authentication process. So quite a comprehensive list of things you can do. If I go clear that out, let's clear that out. And so in this directory we have one file to transfer. Now if we want to transfer that file to a remote server, then this is what it would look like. I'd go SCP, that would be the name of the file, followed by, I name the username of the server I'm trying to log into, followed by the IP address, and then followed by the folder or directory on that system, that remote server, that I want this file to be copied to. So I already know that I have an account on that machine for this user. So that user would be good. So with that said, now by doing that, what will happen is SCP under the hood will open an SSH connection, and it will copy this file to this user's account on this machine. And it will also use the SSH configuration for this, as I said. And if there wasn't any SSH configuration, it would use a password. It would prompt you for a password that you would enter into the command line, and that would connect you to the server and then complete the transmission. Let's see what happened when we hit this. Good, it seems to have been transferred. You can see that it says file to transfer 100%. Also, you get a status report on that file, and that file has been transferred to the server. And if I go and I look at, if I go to, let's SSH into the server, should be SSH into the server to prove that the file has been transferred properly. So if I go SSH, now if we go SSH into that server where we've transferred the file, we're in. If we should list the files here, we should find that file available to us. Let's try to list that file. That file seems to be available. Let's just put that in. Let's see. So there you go. So we are currently SSH into the server. After transferring the file, we now jump into the server with SSH, having a look, and we can see that the file has been successfully transferred to the server. And we can exit that server and come back to a local machine because we're happy, close the connection, that file has been transferred. So that's one of the primary use case for SCP. It works both ways also. SCP can also copy a file from the local machine, from the remote to the local machine. So if we do that, we look like this. If we go, so let's clear this out. Now, before we do that, let's just log back into the machine for clarity and go touch remote file. Okay, so I've created a remote file. If we list that, this remote file has been created, and this file is on the server. So if we want to come back to our local machine, now we're back in our local machine, and if we want to copy that file that was created on the server to the local machine, this is how we would do it. Now we go back into SCP, and it looks similar. We know that we need most of this, and let me simplify this without recreating it from scratch. So we won't be referencing a local file to be copied. We'll be referencing a remote file that needs to be copied locally, and that will be called remote-file txt. So you can see that already, you know that in that users directory followed by the user account folder, and that remote file that we've created lives in that directory. We want to copy that file locally to this current directory. So after executing this command, we should see that file on our local machine. If everything goes well, let's see. Went without a murmur, very silent. Let's have a look on our local folder. ls, give us the long form. Yes, you can see that we have successfully copied the remote file to our local machine. So now you can see how powerful this stuff is. You can be copying files, moving files around, running commands, executing in different contexts. Very powerful stuff. And if you want to get your head around network programming and understanding how files, you will have to look at these protocols and these practices and build up the skill for these areas, because they're very central. Good. So in most cases, computers are much more useful on a network than not. So the power of computers really is only multiplied by the fact that you can network them and transmit information between computers. Excellent stuff. So that, I think, demonstrate the SCP command, or to copy files from remote to local. And if you go back to the man page for a recap, SCP, there's lots to learn here. Lots of flags to modify the behavior of the default behavior. You can look at IPv4, IPv6, all the various methods. And what else is of interest here? You will have lots of SSH options that will affect the way your SCP commands operate. As I said, SCP is connecting over SSH, so that should give you some indication as to how linked these two commands are. Thank you for watching. Hope you find it interesting. Hope you find it to be a very interesting introduction to a tool that you might have used a bit or not used enough. And please leave a comment down if you want to get a bit more information about any particular areas. But as we progress through the 71 most used command line tools, please, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you at the end I'll catch you in the next video, not at the end, but in the next video. Great. Thanks a lot. Good.